You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls After Show.
Oh yeah! Listen to that soundtrack coming in.
Hey, this is epic. We're in the big studio.
This is
exciting.
Our first time in the big studio here at AfterBuzz TV. Bing is for doing, and we're here rocking out another NBC's Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls After Show.
Say what?
Oh yeah, we're rocking it out. We have a few special guests that we'll introduce to you in one moment, but if you do want to call in tonight, the number is 424-256-1729. I can't even read that.
We think you got it.
He can't even read good.
The glasses are coming on, folks, and that means I'm going to introduce myself. I am your host for the evening, Stephen Lemieux, joined here by James Wallington.
AKA your twin.
AKA, you guys are totally twinsies tonight.
Yeah, we're having a poll in the comments. Who wore it better?
Me. I'm James Wallington. Follow me on Twitter at James Wallington.
Tweet us to let us know. And across the table, we have the lovely, both are lovely, so I can't really say that. So what's the plural? We have Ashley.
Woo! Hey guys, it's Ashley Michelle at the AM Broadcast on Twitter and Instagram. What's up?
As well as you may know her from this show that we're covering. She went home last week, sadly. But they always send home the people we like, which is also a clue to who our guest is tonight. Canden.
Hey guys, it's Canden Bliss. You guys can tweet me at Canden Bliss and let me know what you think about the show now that I'm gone.
And a familiar face we might have on the guest couch this evening. Yes, familiar face or two. I missed her last week, and I didn't get my Mama Donna hug until this week. But we have the illustrious Mama Donna.
She's back.
And of course, an evening would not be complete without the people who didn't deserve to go home tonight. Robin, right next to her, rocking it out right now. Okay.
AKA Wonder Woman.
AKA.
That's
and
right.
I believe we might get a call in from
We might get a call from the captain.
I gotta get that number again.
424-256-1729. And let's just jump.
424-256. Sorry, I'm just 29. I'm doing the intro on my
I don't know how long I can keep this energy up. But no, I love it. This is a great episode. I liked it much more than the episode 2 weeks ago, and the episode last week was kind of
terrible because I went home.
Sad because you guys went home. And even then, like, there hasn't been that kind of moral thing, like duck eggs. That's terrible.
Right? Tell me
Are they
about
called
it.
balut?
Balut is when you treat it a certain way, I think.
Oh,
Right?
because I know it's been on other reality shows. And the moment I saw him handing those eggs, I was like, okay, I know what's going to happen.
Well, I'm glad somebody did because we didn't.
Yeah. So that's kind of a sad note.
It was an intense episode.
It was. I like to say this, like some of the obstacles they do when you're watching as a viewer, they look so easy. But at the same time, if you ever go to the gym and you do like a full workout and then try to do a push-up, it's the easiest thing in the world, but it's like super hard after that. And these people have been going for weeks. So
And hours on each obstacle. So it's very difficult for the audience to even gauge what everyone's really going through.
yeah, your muscles have a limit. And Bear is pushing you guys past the limit, especially with this. This is a rope, a big-ass rope across a big-ass cavern. And you got
You gotta put your big ass on that rope.
There you go.
And haul across it.
These are real, by the way.
I meant everyone's big. All right, just cut me off now.
Or in case you're lucky, you just gotta like hang there and give up.
Or the guys. I feel so bad for the guys. I don't even want to go
cringing
there.
Just watching that, I was like, ooh, I feel like my manhood would go out the window.
Well, not just that, too. The weather, like you said, your hands were totally numb. You couldn't even feel them. How are you supposed to pull yourself across the rope?
It was cold.
And when you have numb hands, like, you literally cannot do anything.
Yeah.
It's miserable.
Well, I know that for one thing, Mama Donna and I woke up the next morning in New Zealand saying, thank you.
Hallelujah.
Because it was raining and we felt so bad for everybody out there, not only wet, but cold. And we knew what it was like to be grossly wet, but not quite to that extreme. And to be cold on top of that, just, I can see everybody's just emotions and like, I'm done coming out, you know?
I will say, though, I have not seen anyone as cold as Chris was in the first episode.
True. This is true.
Nobody has gotten to that point, and I think the reason Bear had to step in and tell everyone to huddle up and get under that tarp is because he knew that another hour, another 2 hours being in that, once the sun goes down, it's all bets are off, and everyone's going to get to that point.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Robin, did you think that that somebody should have thought of that a long time before Bear had to bring it up?
You know, it would have been nice. I think I said it on the show tonight that at the point where I was going across, the obstacle team had just gotten across and just Wilson. So I was the fourth person. I was not thinking about warming up the rest of the team. I was thinking about going across, but I knew I wasn't ready. My hands were cold. I couldn't feel a thing. So it was a great idea for the rest of everybody behind me, but for me, I was going across cold and numb. So it was a great idea. But Bear knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we're average people, trying to be in this experience, and we need that guidance to say, look, get it together.
Yeah.
Did you feel that everyone was good on that obstacle in particular to like help motivate you? Because it seems like this was the one that everybody was really like inspiring each other and they pulled together.
Yeah.
It was an amazing time, watching each person go across and rooting for every single person, because this was the one obstacle where nobody had to help anybody. It was just about what you put into it and what you gave. So it was great. Like, I loved yelling for both Chris to go across and then Louie. And I got to be honest, hearing Louie, who I think is one of the strongest girls in this thing, grunt like she did, I was like, whoa, this thing must hurt.
And it's got to
Ryan.
echo over that canyon a little bit,
Whoa. It was, yeah. I mean, and there was some grunts coming from some big old grown men out there, too. So.
Rambo, Mr. Ryan, was having a tough time. And
It was tough.
Yeah.
But it was very inspirational to have everybody rooting. But there were still some comments later that I saw. So
Well, did anybody in particular, like, did you see any relationships? I don't know, something interesting when they were trying to motivate each other. Like, were certain people not motivating other people, or were some people motivating others more than everybody else, or was it just like the team was really in it together to get everybody across?
I really can't say that anybody held back from motivating. Those first 3 or 4 people that went across, everybody was yelling. By the time I got across, I really couldn't tell what was happening on the other side of the gorge. But I know that even for me, watching people on the other side and not being able to hear them, I was still yelling, oh, so-and-so is getting across, or so-and-so is not doing it. Whatever it was, you still felt it. I mean, you got to think, for us on the other side, for all the other people, we still sat and stood in the rain. There were no tarps on the other side. So
That's true.
Yeah.
What did everyone think when Lucky was like, I'm just gonna ride across?
By the time Lucky did make that choice, everybody was already across. So it was kind of like, it's time to go. I didn't recognize that he did that, like he didn't even try until elimination. At that point, I was like, oh, I didn't realize Lucky didn't do it. I mean, he had been pulling the entire time, which was a choice, to have Lucky do that much physical activity in the rain at his age, but he did a fabulous job. But he made the choice to not try. And I think Bear made an example of what not trying does.
I think that's what frustrated me the most, though,
too.
because everyone did it and no one had an excuse, and that was the obstacle that he had laid out in front of you, and he just was like, whatever, you guys can pull me across, and that would just annoy me. For everyone that actually did it and people that were scared or, had some sort of, mental obstacle that, couldn't, allow them to do it, but I was just surprised that he just kind of fell off and was like, all right.
Go ahead.
I'm always one to jump on the Lucky Louie hate train, but I want to play devil's advocate here for a second, because I kind of thought about it a little bit, and going from where you were and how we had 4 or 5 people left after you, because you went without huddling up under that tarp at all,
Right.
And Lucky, when you did huddle up under the tarp, Lucky was one of the guys holding his hands up doing that. That's also not going to keep your hands warm. That's going to actually make them a lot more cold. So thinking about it rationally in a way, too, and depending on how long the person before Lucky took, he was out there alone, and he was not I gotta say, maybe he just couldn't have done it because your hands were numb at that point. I can't imagine what his were like after waiting another 3 hours for everyone else to get across.
Well, sometimes survival has to do with more than just what you're putting out. You have to make some critical decisions, and you were given an option to do it or not to do it, and based on the effort he'd already put in so he could be efficient later.
Yeah.
I think it was critical, and I think it was smart, and he would get out alive based on a good decision made. Maybe not for the whole team at that moment, but in the long run.
And everybody else had Jeff holding them up for the first couple of feet
He
to get
been
them
the last
stable.
person.
Lucky didn't have that. He was there by himself. So maybe he would have just really struggled and exerted a lot of energy trying to just get on the rope, much less try to get across it.
Yeah.
I think that Bear would have given him the respect had he just
Tried it.
straddled that line. Even if you straddle, pull, fall, get pulled over.
Yeah.
It just seemed like Bear was more perturbed about the effort of not trying. But again, too, at that time when I was looking at it, I don't know why Lucky was pulling. He's the older person on the team. We had 3 other people who were in their 20s who were much stronger. So I'm not really sure how that choice was made. But
Do you think he maybe did that as strategy, like knowing, well, if I do this and I'm putting in this effort and helping in this way, then I won't have to do it?
you know, I don't think so. I think he really wanted to do it, but I do think it probably would have been a better strategy for the obstacle team to have one of the, because realistically for what was happening on the other side with the 2 younger team members, somebody on that other side should have been pulling.
It also seems like there's kind of a theme here in this series is when one person on a team is doing really well, it just seems like the other person sits back and is just like, they're doing great, instead of like trying to help them. Especially we see this with the food challenge where they're doing the eels. I'm blanking on the name right now.
Kylan, Royce, and Madeline and Ryan.
Ryan's doing a great job.
Yeah.
He's getting these
Soldier.
eel. Madeline's just kind of sitting back. He's doing a great job.
Yeah.
She was a great cheerleader.
Well, you know, here's the thing I think about being on a team of 2. I think part of the reason that we get on these shows is that you balance out your partner. So one partner may be stronger at one thing, and the other team member balances them out. And I think you saw a little bit of that tonight, where Ryan is strong at certain things. Madeline is his cheerleader. And being a wife, I get it, because the roles will reverse. And then when you have to be the stronger person and your man has to be the cheerleader, that's what happened with me on the road. Wilson was my cheerleader.
Well, I gotta stop you speaking about your cheerleader.
Speaking of your
we might
cheerleader.
have your cheerleader on the line right now. So
Oh my God.
let's poke them through. Caller, you're on the line. Is this Wilson?
Wilson here.
Hey, Captain, what's up? How's it going, Captain?
Oh, just fine. I won't be able to talk for long. I'm about to pull up next to this container ship here in a second.
So, Wilson, did you actually get a chance to watch the show, or have you not seen it yet?
Have not.
Uh-oh, he's working. He's actually captaining a ship at the moment, so he's a little preoccupied. Well, Wilson, give us your thoughts on this episode and of the obstacle and how you were, quote-unquote, a cheerleader for Robin here.
I'm sorry. You're completely breaking up.
All right, just talk to us.
You know, words you said. Sorry.
Just talk, Wilson. Just tell us what you went through on this episode.
I think we're losing him.
Wilson, can you hear?
I'm sorry. I'll try to give a call back. I'm so sorry. I can't hear you over these diesel engines.
Thanks for trying.
I'll give it about 10 minutes. I'll drop my passenger off at the ship, and then I'll try to call you back in. And I can dial these engines down a bit.
Somebody's got to work in this family.
You got that right. Thanks, babe.
All right. Hopefully we'll try
All
to
right,
get
he'll
Wilson
try
back on the
again.
line.
He'll probably call back before we get done.
Or he can text you and you can.
Yeah, he'll
you
let
can,
us
you
know.
can be his
Information.
cheerleader.
That's the balance, though, of a good team. I will say that being in a marriage as long as we have, you're going to be weak on certain things, and everybody can't do everything in a team. And if we could, I mean, we'd have got a lot farther. But I get it with my Ryan and Madeline. I see the differences. I mean, yeah, she didn't get in the water, but she was on the side, and I don't know if she's, you know, I hope she got to put a knife into one of those eels because I would have. But I get it. You know, I do get that you can't be everything at every part of the journey.
That is true. So we talked about food, and of course, food worked together really well to get enough eel for everyone. I mean, that seems like the most food you've actually gotten that's edible. It's not Spaniard root.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
And it's not grubs. I mean, that's hardy stuff. I'd eat
I'm
that on the
jealous a little
daily.
bit.
Yeah. So.
I don't even like sushi, and I'm a little jealous.
Oh yeah, eel is amazing barbecued. But food team worked together. The obstacle team.
Well, never mind.
I mean, kind of worked together.
I was gonna say, can we just bring that up, please?
Okay.
Somebody else bring it up though, because I don't want to be the one.
Bring it up. Go for it, Canden.
No, I think there were 3 cheerleaders
Oh, big time.
and 1 person doing the work.
Oh, yeah. I get what you're saying. I would agree with that.
Okay.
I feel like when they went to the little interviews on the side, I feel like Kyle and Royce did more talking than doing the walk. They talked the talk but didn't walk the walk. And I think they kind of took credit for Ryan's success in finding the food. I don't feel like, you know, Kyle was like, oh, I was in the water with him, when clearly there's shots of him standing on the outside just poking at the water. I'm not discrediting his efforts. I mean, I'm sure there was something, for whatever reason, why he couldn't get in that water. But at the end of the day, I agree. I feel like there was 3 cheerleaders and Ryan doing all the work.
I thought they got one though.
Well, Ryan got one. There is a video actually online of Kyle cutting it,
yeah.
and like getting in there after the fact. So he pitched in. It made it seem like there was a lot more.
Yeah, because I
hands-on
totally
stuff.
thought that Kyle and Royce got at least one of the eels.
I mean, who knows? Who knows with editing?
I don't.
Yeah.
Never tell.
Regardless, it was really classy. Ryan didn't throw anyone under the bus.
No, they were all there together.
Right.
Right, and none of us were there.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was just them. And they included Lucky in that. So they invited Lucky to, well, I don't know if you invite somebody to help you, but they asked Lucky to help them go search for eels. And again, he did have the energy to be able to do that, as well as put up a shelter. So I give Lucky a lot of credit for that.
So let's talk about the shelter though. We have 2 teams on shelter, of course. Lucky, just 1. Oh, I could have sworn Lucky and Louie were also on shelter too.
No, they're
Well,
the ones
that's
that
because they
decided
made
to
their
make their
own.
Yeah, a lot of people volunteer
Can you please
themselves.
explain this to me? How is it that if you were shelter, how they ended up with 2 tarps and you guys had 1? Explain that, because I do not understand how that was fair whatsoever.
Absolutely. So they had 2 tarps because they combined the obstacle team, which was Lucky, Louie, Chris, and Jeff. So that was their 2 tarps. They used those 2 tarps to make a shelter for 4 people. So they were able to make a decent shelter for 4 people.
Well, now this, going back to Bear's comment then, the 1 tarp on the bottom, 2 on top, that would, to me, would have been a hint that you already have 2 tarps from the obstacle challenge and you have 1 for the shelter. He kind of was giving you this advice to build this shelter, but it sounds like those 2 teams that did the obstacle did not care to help with the whole group as a whole.
So the shelter was it was a very interesting place for us to be. And I am very happy that Lucky and Louie and Jeff and Chris did their own shelters. Wilson and I were responsible for the rest of the teams. So our plan was to completely cover everybody on top. We didn't have enough enough tarps to do the bottom in our original shelters. Might not have been the best idea but we were using other items to keep people insulated from the ground. It still didn't work, and at the end of the night, people were like, look, we want something on the bottom, something on the top. We deconstructed what we had made, and we gave everybody their own individual shelters. I do believe we would have been warmer. There would have been no rain had we had gone with the original idea. And realistically, what Jeff and Chris and Lucky and Louie used was good for them. They worked on their shelter as long as we did for 6 or 8 people for 4 people. So they did do a great shelter for the 4 of them, but unfortunately, Wilson and I were the only 2 people who worked on shelter. There was no additional help for us.
I feel like it's getting to the point now where, last week my mom and I were the only ones on food. And for some reason, just because you're the only team, it means you almost have a target on your back
Yeah.
immediately because everybody's looking at you.
Yeah.
and there's no cushion for that
Well,
fall.
there's no brainstorming.
Yeah.
There's no little element there to sort of negotiate a better idea. Is there something? There's no room.
Yeah, so
it's
it's
just you.
This is where the flaw is to that system, then, to me, is like every journey is different. The food is different every journey. The shelter, the location you build the shelter is different every journey. So, yeah, you may be getting all this advice and these suggestions from Bear, but how can you apply it when every different situation is
subjective.
completely
Very good point.
different?
Exactly.
So it's like, to me, it should be completely critiqued and based on that journey, not because you're not growing from every journey. It's just you had your own obstacles in every journey that held you back from successfully completing the task.
Yeah, and there was one other piece of the puzzle that wasn't really focused on the episode, but it was a big part of our journey, was that was the first time we were able to keep fire the entire evening. Had we had known that before building shelter, we would have built the shelter near the fire. So, you know what? It was a learning lesson for us. We learned that you've got to, again, the fire wasn't built before we started making the shelters either. So there are all these elements, and when you have different people responsible for them, communication is key.
Yep.
So I get it. You know, I do not understand that you have to communicate. The food team went off to do it, but I recognize that the fire hadn't even been started until the food team got back, and we were already in the thick of building the shelters by then.
What I don't agree with is the fact that they went off and built their own shelter when they weren't part of the shelter team, because it's not fair that it's your job to make a shelter and they're not on the shelter team and they're making their own, and it makes you look bad.
Well.
I mean, understand.
Here's the thing. It had been done the entire time.
Okay.
It was bigger because it was one team that was responsible for shelter and one team that went off and did it. To be honest, Wilson built every single shelter that we slept in, except for the one at Damp Camp, because Damp Camp, the shelter teams built that for all of us jointly. But our hammock, Wilson built. The first night at our first journey, Wilson built our shelter. So Wilson built every single shelter that we slept in when we weren't on shelter team, but one other time. So it's the help that you offer, but the difference is we built shelters based on what the shelter team
what
created.
They did. Okay.
Right. This was the first time that they went off and did their own. No, this wasn't the first time, because Lucky and Louie had did that before. They built their own shelter, and honestly, I know you guys built your own shelter, and the shelter that we originally built was similar to what you had done, which was cover and then layer. But it didn't work out that way. So They took all night to build that one shelter. Took us all night to build the one shelter as well, but we built it for more people. So I'm okay with it, because that's part of helping with teamwork. Instead of not doing anything and waiting for someone to ask you, they jump in. But the difference was, I know that we tried to communicate what's the idea. But half of their shelter was trees. It wasn't the tarp at all.
Yeah.
And Wilson and I weren't going to be able to do that for the remaining couples that were there without additional hands. But I tell you, I got a lot of leaves to layer. It just, they didn't like it.
Well, the thing is if it's raining, I would want something over me. Period. If you came up with something, another solution, I'd want to be covered, because the point is to not get wet. So you need to cover up.
Right.
Speaking of covering up, let's cover what our caller on the line has to say about Get Out Alive with Bear Grylls. Caller, are you on the line?
Yes.
Caller, what's your name and where are you from?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
And your name?
Devin. Hey, Devin.
Hey, Robin.
What's up, Devin?
What's your question, Devin?
I don't have any. The question, I just want to join in regards. I know we're talking about this shelter.
Okay.
What do you think
And,
about this shelter?
Like, I think you heard earlier, like, Robin and Wilson, you all only had one shelter with no help, and other people had two pieces of shelter. How did that happen?
Yeah, the difference was that two teams got together and built one shelter. where Wilson and I had to build the shelters for the rest of the teams. So we were limited with our resources, and they were able to combine their resources to build a great shelter for 4 people, where we had to build, I think, for 6 or 8. So, yeah.
Sounds like you're doing it for 6 or 8. You need more top than the 4 people.
Yeah, you got to talk to Bear about that.
Yeah, right? We could have used a lot more of a lot of things out there. But
you know what? The reality is this was the first journey where we had no sleeping bags. You had no extra insulation, and this was truly about...
Yeah, we forgot to talk about that.
Yeah, this was the one where, I mean, he took everything away from us except for tarp. So it was more about what people thought, and he did say 1 on the bottom is better than 2 on the top. But I don't think this was the situation. If you look at what Bear showed last week for how to build shelter, he said put, 1 tarp on the bottom and you lay your sleeping bag. So the reality is we did what we thought was a great idea at first, and then we dismantled what we put together, and each person got, a half on the bottom, half on top. And we had a horrible sleep night. But you know what? We still made it. Mm-hmm. What else you got, Devin?
Devin, do you have any more questions before we continue on?
No, you can go ahead and continue on. I'll probably call in and harass y'all again.
All right.
I think you should give a shout out to the Bruz, Devin, before you go.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. What is happening?
Thanks, Devin.
All right. Thanks for calling.
What? Moving on.
Don't know what that was.
So if, like Devin, you'd like to give us a shout out in more of a literary sense, you can definitely head on over to iTunes and search AfterBuzz Get Out Alive, and you will find us as the only podcast that's covering this show right now, with our amazing hosts James, Ashley, Canden, and Mama Donna, and Robin in here with us this evening. Definitely give us 5 stars, leave a rating, and leave a little comment. We like to read them. And definitely head on over to our YouTube page and just look for same thing, AfterBuzz Get Out Alive. Leave us comments, because it's fun to hear what you guys think.
Aaron Caravan's my favorite, I gotta say. He comments on every video.
He always comments how much he loves you.
Well, that's why I wanted to give him a shout out.
Where's my one of those? I want one of those.
I want one too.
Aaron, make sure you give them shout outs next week.
Yeah.
James is my best friend, so by default you have to love me.
He's my best friend too.
Duh.
Duh.
And I'm their mamas.
Yes.
So I kind of want to get a little bit of an inside scoop on this episode, because when we see this map where they're talking about, okay, here's this little rope that goes across, here is this journey all the way across this mountain, and then food's like half a mile away from that.
It was.
What happened? Was there anything that we missed on this journey? Because it's so long. It looked like 10 miles.
You always miss a lot of things.
So, yeah. We took a long time. When I say we, every single person took a long time. And I noticed that in the episode, they made it seem like Wilson and I took forever to get across, and everybody just went like this, right? Like they were just Superman. But everybody took a good deal of time to get across. So by the time we got on the other side, there was quite a bit of, right behind that mountain, there was a climb and then a descent. Mm-hmm. So Wilson started the ascent. I started the descent, as far as, because the shelter team was leading. It was the first time ever shelter led after obstacle, and I was just shocked, like, oh my God, we have to lead next. But we got there, and then we passed it on to the food team. It was a very long journey, which you will notice was the first time that fire and food were basically in the dark, and so we almost set up shelter in the dark as well. No, we did set up shelter in the dark. So this was one of the later journeys where it took a longer period of time.
And it was raining all day.
All day until we got to camp. And then it was... the rain stopped for us to set up shelter, for us to start fire, and for us to eat. And it actually didn't rain again until, I believe, the next evening.
I can just imagine the producers with like fire hoses, like, okay, we'll shut it off for a little bit right now.
No, that was rain. It was torrential rain.
Oh no.
And I hear it gets worse.
Oh man, I can't even imagine that. I would say the rope would be kind of like hard, but then doing that walk afterwards when
it was very
drained,
hard.
and then there's got to be some animosity towards the other people with the rope thing, with just. Everyone's probably at wit's end at this point, aren't they?
You know what? It did. There were some periods, they didn't show it, but, I mean, you still had your harness on. So you're going across. You got to think, you've got this this rope that's going down the center of your body that's very painful. Those tears were tears of pain. This had nothing to do with fear of heights. Robin doesn't have a fear of heights. This was about pain. It really hurt to actually slide your body across it. So you've got that pain that's going to be there with you. Then you got these harnesses on, and they're tight, you know. And so when you start the hike, you're moving in these harnesses, so your legs are limited, and you know, being 5'2", they're very limited as to begin with. So there was a point where, you know, I switched off leading from Wilson, and there was a lot of stuff going on. They didn't show any of that, but I think at the end of the day, we got to camp at a decent rate. Once I got to the descent, I was trying to move as quickly as possible. I think I fell into a couple of holes, you know. But, you know, it's like you don't even feel it. You're numb. And I think for the most part, we did as best job as we could.
I want to go back real quick to the rope because we have the three. You, Madeline, and Lucky did not physically make it all the way across the rope. You gave it a really intense effort and tried. You went through the pain for a while. And I've been getting messages from Jeff all day because he really likes to comment on everything. And, you know, he felt like he was really in your corner.
He really was.
And in Madeline's corner and, you know, just really there supporting everybody. And he said he's really disappointed that Madeline didn't make it because he felt a connection with her with their accidents. And the fact that she kind of just got on and got off. Was that what really happened? I mean, did she really give it a fight, or did she kind of just...
From what I understand, again, I was already on the other side, so I really didn't see it. By the time I looked up, she was hanging. So
that's what it looked like.
Yeah, and from what happened, the talk that Bear had at elimination was that she did not give it the try, which is what Bear was looking for. He was looking for the effort. Yes, I give a lot of props to Jeff. Jeff was in my ear like, Robin, don't get off this thing. It's going to look great on TV. Like, he was saying everything possible to me to keep me on that rope. I wanted to kick Jeff and just get the heck off of it. When Wilson was like, give it 3 more tries, I was like, screw you. It hurt. It was the most painful thing that I'd ever been through. But I did. I gave it I think I pushed across about to, let's just put it this way. I was far enough away from Jeff that he could not, he wasn't able to help me anymore. You know, when he was telling me what to do to get off, I could barely hear him. So what I understand of Madeline was that she must have gotten on and said, no, and it hurt. And what I understand of Madeline's injuries is that they were sternal. You know, if they're in the center of your body, it probably was even more painful for her. So I can't say each person, it hurt. And all I know from watching this episode and being there was that Bear wanted you to try. Yeah. And as long as you tried, I mean, by the time I got to the other side, Bear was like, you gave it your all.
Yeah, you earned his respect for sure.
I'm happy of that, and I'm so happy Wilson made it through. And he's trying to call. He said it twice. He can't get through.
Well, so. maybe we'll be able to get to him. From a production standpoint on this episode, though, we've been talking a little bit throughout our after shows about how some of the story in this show, like the editing, it really doesn't convey really a clear story for each episode, and especially this one. I mean, I'm just looking at the title of the show. And it's the show is titled "Don't Look Down," so you really feel like they're gonna stress the height. Like, you're on a rope above a canyon. Like, this is really like serious. But at the same time, like, one of the only people I can think of is you talking about how you never want to skydive, you never want to jump out of a plane. Like, this would be the episode where you would have that dramatic thing. I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of heights. They didn't touch on that at all.
Well, and Louie and Madeline's two of their biggest fears, heights.
Right.
Yeah.
Neither of them made an issue of the height situation, or at least in the episode
at all,
which was strange.
It seems like. It is a new show, and it seems like they're still kind of coming into it, but I really think that they need to, like, focus on these stories, because especially with, like, the background story, we saw an article about, I don't know, Canden and, what's his name?
Jeff,
yeah. We saw that article online, and then, like, we see certain things, they're like, oh, that would have been a great little thing to show in the episode. That would have been a great little thing to show in the episode.
Yeah. I will say that I'll just say this quick and then you can go. I feel like they make us look like heroes online. If you go online on NBC.com, there is so much like content that does not make the episode that I really hope that people watch. All of Bear's takes, all of Bear's survival reports from the week. Last week, ours, I mean, people are blowing me up on Twitter, talking crap and being really mean about things. And Bear is completely like, my biggest cheerleader. And it's just so polarizing that you have to realize, okay, what's going on here? Where is the real story? And I think, unfortunately, it's a blend of what's happening online and what's actually happening in the episode. Neither is completely accurate. It's like a blend. And so I hope that people are watching that, because in the actual episodes, I feel like they show the struggle, the complaints, the just how much more difficult of a time you're having. Whereas online, they make it seem like, everybody's happy, or there's something really interesting going on that for some reason doesn't make the cut.
So the fluff gets on the computer.
Well,
Yeah.
but it's real. I mean,
It
it's
is
real
real.
stuff. I mean, it's stuff that I guess they don't have time to squeeze into an hour.
Right.
And they have to get the most dramatic moments in that 1 hour. And so I hope that everybody's watching online, because they really do show everyone as heroes online, and it sometimes doesn't come across on the actual episode.
Speaking of heroes, we might have Wilson on the line again.
Sorry, that was long.
I'm loving these segues.
Yeah, let's try this again. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hey, Wilson.
Can you hear, Wilson?
Oh, I'm here. I can hear much better now.
All right, you gotta talk. This is your time.
This is your time to shine, Captain. Tell us what's going on.
Well, I'm not a man of many words, so where should I start?
Well, you haven't.
I think that lovely lady over there has already done enough speaking on my behalf.
Thank you, honey.
Well, you haven't gotten a chance to see the episode yet, but tell us from your perspective what's something that happened that stood out to you that maybe we didn't even see.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the very last part of what you said.
Just what's something that struck you in this episode, in this journey, that you made it across that rope like a champ, and you were Robin's biggest cheerleader. Tell me about that experience on the rope.
For me, I mean, it's nothing surprising. We're always very supportive of each other, and I mean, above and beyond all else, I mean, success or failure or anything in between, we're always supporting each other through it. So that, to me, wasn't shocking or anything different than we do in our regular lives. So, sorry.
Wilson, talk about the shelters real quick, because that's what we had a good little conversation here about. What was your take on building the shelter?
I'm not sure how it was shown on the.
Just talk about your experience in building it and what it ended up being.
Well, when we started off, and I pretty much built every time we had to set up camp. If I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I am mistaken, Robin, but we built our own shelters for every camp, every night.
Yep.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, just except for Damp Camp. That was the only one when we were on fire. And yep, you're absolutely right.
Okay. And so that night, I mean, there was a downed tree just inside the forest line. And I think like I had done the first night, I did sort of a kind of a lean-to, but more of a teepee style, where it was both. There were tarps. We had a limited number of tarps, and I can't remember exactly how many we had. But basically, we draped tarps at an angle. Originally, we draped tarps at an angle on either side of the tree, and also used the tree as cover and support for the tent. And what we did was take some brush and leaves, again, for the original design, and put inside the tent. But then somewhere along the way, and I'm not sure where or how or where the decision came from, but I mean, basically we had to disassemble the tent that we had spent all the time making, and making sure that we had adequate coverage of both over our heads and insulating us from the ground.
Right.
So what we ended up with was basically one-sided tents draped from one side of the tree.
Right.
With nothing open. Jim and Austin took their tarp and stayed alongside the fire to keep it going at night. And that's pretty much what we ended up with, but it was a far cry from what
it started
with.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is, honestly, if you watch Bears Man vs. Wild when he goes to New Zealand, I actually think it's the North Island that this one is on. But he builds basically kind of what you did. He didn't have a tarp, but there was a lean-to tree. He was in the rainforest, and there was a lean-to tree, and he like patted some semi-dry leaves on the bottom and used the tree as the cover. Now, I don't know if maybe you'd put tarps on the bottom and use just the tree instead, if that would, but you did have the right idea.
Our boat is right there. I'm sorry.
Aye, aye, Captain.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, like you said, each journey was going to be different. I think for us, the disassemble of what we had started to build came because the team wasn't happy. They said, we want something on the bottom, and that's what we gave them. And so I feel good, honestly, guys, going home saying all the effort that we put, we didn't go home because we were slow. We didn't go home because of anything other than the shelters were not what people wanted.
Yeah. Could have been
not even so that they were to standard, because I promise you, Bear took away sleeping bags on this journey. I hate to see what he's going to take on the next one.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something about what Bear said to you when you guys left. He had mentioned that you had a lot of faith, and I think throughout the whole show, it was evident that you you have a lot of faith. How did that affect your journey?
Wilson, you want to comment on faith while you're still here?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had dropped the call. I dropped the call and it just resumed. So
That's okay.
I'm so sorry.
We're talking about faith.
Talking about
faith.
How did your faith affect your journey, Wilson?
How did my face?
Your
faith.
Not your face.
How did your face affect the journey? It affected my journey.
Your belief in a higher being.
Jesus help you.
Or faith in yourself, whatever. Faith.
I was about to say space. I mean, as we were in the forest.
Your face was getting skinny, I'll tell you that much.
You still look good.
Okay. Well, I think that with all the adversity and challenges that we've faced, and being able to still stay true to who we are, and that's, not complaining, that's not talking about other people's performance and strictly focusing on ours, it was certainly faith that kept us focused and on task for what we were able to accomplish and what we had in front of us. So that's pretty much what I feel about it. It's certainly facing the adversity and not letting it get the best of us, and I mean that's only possible through faith.
Yeah.
That's the boat right there, right?
All right. So Wilson, I'm going to finish up with these guys. Go ahead and get back to those guys down there. Tell them I said hi.
Say what?
She said, "Go away."
Thanks for calling, Wilson.
Yeah,
I'm just motoring along here slowly.
That's okay.
Hey, we appreciate you calling in,
Thank
Wilson.
you.
We've enjoyed your journey, and sad to see that it was over for you guys, but we got to see you the next morning for breakfast.
Yeah. Well, Donna and Canden did. And Devin represented, so don't worry.
With me. I don't know if Donna can hear me. Tell her I said hi, and I'm anxiously awaiting a good pot of gumbo or something.
She's
You
listening.
got it. I'm
We're
here.
gonna have family meal night.
I have missed you, Wilson, and I have thought about you so many times. It's good to hear you, and you looked great on this last episode. I have to say, just strong, and I was just really proud of you. Thank you for repping the Louisiana home style.
Oh, you're such a wonderful sweetheart. Thank you, darling.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night, Wilson.
Thank you. Have fun, and I'll talk to you guys soon. So
I'll see you later, honey.
Bye,
hopefully more
Wilson.
conversive.
Bye.
So,
Never.
I like that, and I'll see you later.
so getting back to the episode, we have to wrap this up pretty soon. We're running out a little bit of time, but the last thing we have to cover is their Survivor Challenge. So this thing looked like a bitch and a half.
Right? Except, to be fair, it shouldn't have been, because Lucky was setting up rabbit snares all over base camp every single day. So this shouldn't have been a big deal for them. But
Canden, interesting that you said that, because Bear said that. And it was interesting. I'd never built a snare before. So I was the person that was giving the instruction on, you do this, do this, do this. And it was making sense, but there was one critical piece. If you didn't have that critical piece, you were not going to catch the
Wouldn't
whatever.
snap.
It wouldn't snap, exactly. So that was surprising that they didn't do good on that or the slingshot. So I was surprised at that, but
Well, do you think it has to do with communication? Because the catch to this challenge was that not only you couldn't work together,
Right.
One person had to be communicating from afar, like literally a couple feet in between you two, what to actually do, what materials to get. They couldn't even help you get the real materials you needed.
Yeah. There were three major components. Communication was key. Your memory. Like what you saw to be able to communicate that back. So if you notice, a couple of us went back to look at what it looked like, which was on the other side where they couldn't see, because there's steps. So if you don't remember what the steps were and things like that, you had to go back. And then the third was, execution, which was your partner. And if Wilson was on, Wilson said you communicated brilliantly. Like, you were fine with your communication. And you saw he broke the stick. But breaking the stick has anything to do with communication. It just means the stick broke,
Get a different stick.
Get a different stick. So that one was good. And I really was happy for Colin Royce, because I know that they were getting into the downs about winning a feast pit, of not having the energy to do it because they were helping. So I'm very happy that they won.
Yeah.
But you did call out an interesting perspective that I think we'll see down the lines of what people really have of what they supposedly come to the game with. And speaking of one, I do have to say something, like, for the record. Two things. A couple of episodes back, I have to. Well, I guess I probably don't have to say this, but I feel I need to say this, and it's partly because is Jeff watching?
Yes, he's definitely
Jeff
watching.
is watching, and
Hey,
Jeff mentioned this last week, so I was like, darn, I'm going to have to say it now that I'm going to be on there. Two things about integrity and honesty. Because the one thing that my husband has is complete integrity and honesty. I couldn't be with him for almost 10 years. We've been together 16, so that is a huge thing. I can't explain to you guys why we didn't do better on the swimming challenge. We can swim. Had anybody gotten to know us to know, we met at a pool party, swimming. Wilson threw me in the pool the first day that we met, and he did not save me. So I will say that swimming is not something that we're not accustomed to doing. We just did not show up for that. If we'd have gone home for that, I completely would have understood. We didn't show up for it. But I do have to address the fact that he did not lie about that skill set, because it's a huge what Bear actually said at that first night was he was afraid of water. And that's where he went completely like, whoa, no, I'm not afraid of water. People who work on water are not afraid of water. So I have to say that in defense and just in integrity, just to say, because I know a lot of people think, in general, there are certain people who can't swim. He is the stronger swimmer of the two of us. We did not show up at that event. So I do have to say that. Yeah. And the whole thing about the duck and what we ate and stuff, I just want to say, as far as that man has a lot of honesty and integrity, and he's not going to say anything. This is, as you see, this is all about me. It's not about him. He could care less. So he has no reason to cover up or lie about anything. But I do have to say that in defense of a man. All right?
You're an angel.
Oh.
You are.
I got 2 great angels up there. That's the reason I was able to do this. My mom and dad are right with us this entire time. So now let's get to the rest of this and predictions, whatever.
You already know.
Eliminations, predictions.
You got this stuff on lockdown. All right. I mean, did you guys have anything else to say about the survival challenge except that it was like looked really difficult, and I'm surprised Austin didn't win?
This is the second week in a row Chris and Jeff
just got so
are
close.
like this close.
Yeah, and he's not happy about that either. I mean, they were done and just wouldn't quite catch, or it wouldn't hold something. They were missing one integral part that they couldn't even let go, or else it would just kind of flop over, even though they built it correctly and something was missing. So they were frustrated about it. But I mean, Kyle and Royce hammered it out. I don't know what went down, really.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I will say, being there, it was close. I saw when Kyle and Royce is attached, and it was quick, and it was like, wow, it's over. And it really happened that quickly.
Yeah.
But I mean, Chris and Jeff are pulling it out. I've got to say real quickly too, because I'm here, that Chris and Jeff were so helpful. Ryan, Cal, and Royce were amazingly helpful to Wilson and I do thank them immensely. And I'm so glad that they're still going on. And honestly, whoever wins deserves every dime that they get.
I agree.
That's true. That is true.
I agree.
You can buy a whole lot of wasp larvae with that money.
Ooh, how was the wasp larva?
You know, it was weird. It was like kind of nutty sweet.
Oh.
Wilson and I made a soup with it the next morning with eel skin.
Yum.
It was a great BG.
Delightful.
It was a
Skin.
BG breakfast. It was a true BG breakfast. But you know, the larva was. Wilson loved it. He was like down in it, and I was like, it's okay. But it had like a weird aftertaste, but kind of nutty. I mean, here's my thing: everything that we ate, as long as you cooked it,
Yeah,
it's
better.
fine.
Everybody's reactions was funny. Like Austin was like, "It tastes like Dijon mustard." I hate Dijon mustard. And then Jeff's like, interesting."
Yeah,
Like, it's like,
yeah.
it was strange, but at least not so disgusting.
So do we have anything more on this episode before we move into predictions?
Well, we have to address the fact that this week, Royce and Kyle got to bring someone else to the feast pit.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I get where they were coming from. I think if I'd been Ryan and Madeline, I may have been a little more offended, because Ryan and Madeline worked with Kyle and Royce on the food team to get all the food.
Yeah.
They worked so hard to get food, and then they're not even going to get rewarded for that effort, that teamwork. So I understand why they chose Lucky and Louie, because they hadn't been to a feast pit yet. But if you're in this for a competition, from a competition standpoint, and somebody worked with you directly that like helped you advance, I don't know.
I almost walked out.
I know you did.
I was like, they better not give it to Lucky and Louie, and you guys were like, sorry.
However, I feel like if I were Ryan and Madeline, I would be understanding. Like, well, they haven't gone in yet. Okay.
And they were.
Yeah.
They said that.
Well, yeah.
Exactly.
I was as soon as they made the choice, I was like, well, they hadn't been, and it was the politically correct thing to do.
I
Yes.
agree.
But from
way
a
of putting it.
competition standpoint, that's how you weed out people.
Well, I think this is what's going to be interesting. It's what happens now that
Exactly.
we're gone. Now that the weak links,
Yeah.
who, you know, weak is perspective, because this up here got it all going on. So, but now that everybody who was holding people back is gone, it's going to be interesting how the alliances happen. And you can say whatever you want, that this show is not about that. It's going to totally be about that.
Well, it has to be at a certain point, because there's no reason to send anybody home if everybody's amazing and doing something right.
I'm scared.
It's gonna get intense.
I am, because you're right. You guys are the ones that are positive, and like in YouTube. I mean, like you guys. The last 2 weeks is just too much for me.
I don't even know what I am.
But this episode and last episode, it's like those the coaches and the cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Now they're gone.
The people you want to root for, the
Yeah,
underdog that
exactly.
people
Yeah.
can relate to. That is a big thing for me when I watch reality shows. Is you want to root for the underdog, people that are positive, that are relatable. You know, it's just, I totally agree with you, Ashley.
I'm so glad that there are people like you out there.
No, I mean, it's just
Bless
not
your
going to
heart.
be, it's not going to be easy to send anybody home at this point.
No.
That's why bear is bear, right?
Right. He's going to have a tough decision beyond now that, like you said, you know, the weak, the whiny, everything that is gone. Now it's about, again, we had sleeping bags taken on this episode. I imagine that they're going to take something else away. I mean, these guys may not have anything in the next 2 episodes, so it's going to be about teamwork. It's going to truly be about what skill set. It's not ever going to be about speed or agility at this point. So I'm happy that, again, I'm totally happy we were eliminated for crappy shelters.
Well, speaking about what we think is going to happen next, let's move into predictions. Let's wrap this baby up nice and tight.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV
predictions. All right. So, what do you think is going to happen, Mama Donna?
Oh, I'm nervous to see. I don't know. I still believe in the knowledge that maybe Austin's got. I mean, he just can pull from his own experiences. I don't know. I kind of think maybe he's going to do okay.
Okay, what about Miss Robin over there?
You know, from the beginning, I thought Austin and Jim were going to win. So if we're talking about who's going to win, I think they have a great chance. I think I'm more interested in who's going home next week.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, I think Austin and Jim came with a lot of qualities and abilities to be able to get through this. But I would love, and I'm saying this for real, I want to see a woman take it home. I want to see one of the women partners. So that's Ryan and Madeline for me.
All right. Ashley?
But you guys have to actually just predict who you think's going home next week, too.
Oh, yeah.
And who you think's going to win.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you guys got
Because we
that.
really can't.
Yeah.
Okay. I can never decide who I think's going to go home.
Now, we're already home, so you can't choose us.
I know. But definitely, I am just. Can I root for somebody? I'm rooting for Chris and Jeff. They're my boys. Love them.
Yeah.
I guess you can't.
I mean, yeah, I was Team Orange last week. I'm still Team Orange. I think those guys are great. But I'm a little torn with Jim and Austin, too. I think they just pull it out every time. I mean, Jim is right there with everybody, does everything. I mean, I'm sorry, Lucky, you didn't go across the rope. Jim did it like a rock star. So, yeah, I'm split Team Orange and Austin and Jim.
Based on editing and story, I'm going to go with Ryan and Madeline or Lucky and Louie going home next week, and I think Jim and Austin still have it in the bag to win.
All right. I'm going to go with Madeline and them going home. They're going home next week. I'm going with Chris and Jeff to win it for the whole thing. And I'm going with...
They just like the cute ones.
It's just because Jeff tweeted both of us earlier and said lovely, called us lovely. So.
I mean,
playing the game.
And I also think that in the next few things, we're going to see the groups split up and working together amongst different partners.
Or some animosity between friends.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's next week. Tune in, guys. Thanks for watching AfterBuzz.
Where can we find you, Canden?
You guys can tweet me at Canden Bliss.
Ashley.
Ashley Michelle at the AM Broadcast.
And James Wallington. And you can find me on Capture on the CW at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays.
Yay!
Lime Team.
Yes, Team Lime.
Mama Donna.
At Mama Donna OMG.
And, of course, Robin.
I'm Robin Dionne.
And you can find me at Stephen Lemieux and here at AfterBuzz TV, usually in the booth. Definitely tweet at us. Thanks for joining us this evening. Thank you again for joining us this evening, Robin.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Captain Wilson, for calling in.
We will see you guys next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.